So recently there's been some NBA news, and to my surprise the news has been that the Cleveland Cavaliers are actually looking to trade their star and Collin Sexton. They're open to trading for him. And this is very surprising since he's literally the best player on their team and he's still extremely young and he has many time to improve. When I first heard about this potential move, I instantly thought it was a stupid move and I couldn't think of any possible reason the Cavs would want to trade him. But the more I thought about it, I realized that it's not such an easy choice to make. So it led me to making this video where I'll be giving some reasons on why the Cavs should trade Collin Sexton and some reasons to why I think the Cavs shouldn't trade him. Then at the end of the video, I'm going to come to a conclusion on what I think they should do. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content and to the goal of 1,500 subscribers. Comment on this video so I can conversation with me as I do respond to all of my comments, and play that intro. The first reason I don't think the Cleveland Cavaliers should trade Collin Sexton is the fact that Sexton is actually a straight up good player, because at this point in his career, he is definitely the Cavs' best player, and he's coming off a career season where he averaged 24 points and 4 assists while shooting 47% from the field and 37% from 3. He's definitely one of the more underrated players in the NBA, and I don't understand why he's not talked about enough. And there seems to be so much people who view him negatively, calling him a ball hog and just a negative to the team, and that truly baffles me because I don't understand why people are so negative on him. And I honestly, it's not good to be a ball hog, but when you realize that he's putting up numbers on this crazy efficiency and you realize that he's playing on a Cavaliers team with very few talent, you could kind of understand it. I think if he was on a team with better players, he would move the ball more. And we also have to realize Sexton is only 22 years of age and he's nearly putting up 25 points a game. No way you trade a player who is putting on numbers like that. Most guards in the NBA in their whole career don't even put numbers like that, and Sexton's doing it at the age of 22. Also, Sexton's not a guard who struggles with injuries or anything like that, so I honestly don't really understand that. A thing people used to say about Sexton was that he couldn't space the floor, but he literally shot 40% from 3 last season, and this season he shot 37% from 3. For being honest, he doesn't do it on a crazy amount of attempts. He only averages around 4, but it's not like he's shooting 1 or 2 of them a game. Defenses still respect his jump shot. So I don't think the Cavs should trade him due to the fact that he has shown a lot of promise so far in his career. The first reason I think the Cleveland Cavaliers should trade Collin Sexton is the fact that, as I said, he is a really good player and he's coming off his best season where he was nearly averaging 25 points on really good efficiency. And with him doing that, that means his trade value is probably at its all-time high. I can imagine a bunch of teams are willing to give up some good assets for a 22-year-old who's averaging 24 points on good efficiency. I think there's a slim chance that Sexton gets exposed as a player who puts up empty stats and doesn't lead to winning, and kind of how teams did that to Andre Drummond, and then Sexton's value falls down significantly. I'm not going to say that's going to happen, but it possibly could, and maybe the Cavs would want to trade him now if they feel like that will happen and try and get as much for him, because right now I think in return for Sexton they could legitimately get another really good young player, or they could move him for a bunch of picks, or even maybe a top 10 pick this year. If you're interested in getting a young player, Sexton might be the guy you have to trade. But maybe I'm overrating his value and his value's not that high. But to be honest, I think that's what his value should be, because I think he's a future all-star. But if the Cavs were going to trade him, a legitimate reason they could have was because they want to cash in on how high his value is right now. The second reason I don't think the Cleveland Cavaliers should trade Collin Sexton is the fact that when you look at this Cleveland Cavaliers roster, they just came off a 22-50 record just this last season, which was the 5th worst record in the whole NBA. And when we just look at this roster, this is clearly a team that lacks talent, and the record shows that. So I might just say that this team isn't really in any position to just be throwing away talent and trading it, especially when you realize that the talent that they're trading is literally their best player, who's a 22-year-old who just came off of an all-star level season. This Cavs roster probably only has 4 or 5 above average NBA players, and they're not in position to just be throwing away talents and things of that nature, especially a guy of Sexton's caliber. If it was a guy like Larry Nance Jr. or Kevin Love, I would honestly understand that, since those guys are a little bit older and they're not guys who have star potential. But you're literally trading away Sexton, who had a phenomenal season, and he's a guy who I think can be a multiple time all-star in the future. If the Cavs were a team that were at least competing for the playoffs and they realized that Sexton couldn't work on this team, then I would understand that, but they literally suck, and it's definitely not his fault. So in my opinion, when you're a team that sucks that much, trading your best player away, who's especially young, isn't really the right move. The second reason the Cleveland Cavaliers should maybe trade Collin Sexton is the fact that Sexton isn't the greatest fit on this team. And usually when you hear someone say they're not the best fit, it's usually like a second star or a role player or a other stud or something like that. It's rarely the best player on this team, but in this case, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of is, due to the fact that Sexton is way more of a shooting guard rather than a point guard. But the only problem is that he's 6'1" or at most 6'2", and they can't play him at the point guard position because he's not that good of a passer. And on top of that, they already have a point guard in Darius Garland, who I think can be just as good as Sexton, if not better, especially after he came off a pretty impressive sophomore season, which went under the radar. And if I have to be honest, between those two, I would honestly choose Garland's, because I feel like his style of play is more likely to translate to wins and fit well alongside others. Also, in this year's draft, I believe the Cavs have the 3rd pick in this year's draft, which is a huge deal. And this is in a draft where there's like a plethora of talent, because there's a lot of talent at the front that lots of people think can be all-stars or even superstars, and at the bottom of the draft there's a bunch of people who think can be solid and role NBA players. And the fact that the Cavs have this pick is very important, because when you're a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, you shouldn't be looking to draft off of fit. You should be trying to draft the best player, especially like how terrible they are. And if they were to draft off fit, there's a significantly bigger chance that they would get the player who's not actually the best available. So maybe they want to try and get a guy like Jalen Green or Jalen Suggs or any other guard that's projected to go in that like 3 to 5 area, and Collin Sexton could be holding them back from getting them. And I feel like Sexton is clearly not their long-term point guard or shooting guard, which I can kind of understand. But in my opinion, I think the Cavs should get a player who could play the small forward or power forward position. I don't know much about the draft, to be honest, so I don't know who that would be. Let me know who you think should be, but that could definitely be a reason to trade him if you want to get a guy like Jalen Green to play the shooting guard position and you want to free up minutes for him. But then again, we don't even know if Jalen Green will ever be as good as Sexton. The third reason the Cleveland Cavaliers shouldn't trade Collin Sexton is the fact that he's a player with a lot of potential, as I think one day he could be a top 10 point guard in the league, and with the way the point guard position is so stacked, that's a really big accomplishment. Being a top 10 point guard in the future is going to be more of an accomplishment than being a top 7 or 8 at most of the other positions. And I think he will be a guy who makes the All-Star team 4 to 6 times, and that's obviously very good. And Sexton just seems like a player who really wants to win, because he plays so hard and he works so hard, because every year in his career he has significantly improved. So I think when the Cavs are ready to start winning, he could be a huge factor who can help them. I know I already said this, but he's literally averaging 24 points on great efficiency in only his 3rd season in the NBA, and in this year of his career he has significantly improved. So I don't know if you should be treating someone with such great potential as if he's like an afterthought or something like that. And if we're being honest, over the course of literally NBA history, we haven't seen too much guards put up the numbers he has in just their 3rd season or at his age. And I kind of don't understand why it's not talked about enough. I guess he's on the Cavs, that's why it's not talked about enough, but I don't know, man. I really like Sexton. The third reason the Cleveland Cavaliers should trade Collin Sexton is the fact that, as I pointed out before, the Cavaliers already have a great dynamic guard in Darius Garland, who plays the point guard position due to his greater passing ability. And Collin Sexton's only 6'2" or 6'1", and that would force him to play the shooting guard position, and that's a very small backcourt. And usually I wouldn't make such a big deal about it, but as we've seen with the Portland Trailblazers backcourt, a small backcourt doesn't necessarily lead to great success. And yes, Portland has made this postseason 6 years in a row, and they made the conference finals and made it to the conference semifinals plenty of times, and the Cleveland Cavaliers would probably do anything just to get to that area. But we have to realize that neither of these guys in their prime are going to be as good as Damian Lillard, and none of these guys are going to be a superstar. So in my opinion, I believe the problem of having a small backcourt is going to be even more magnified, since this duo is significantly less talented than the Blazers backcourt. And as I said, I would choose Darius Garland over Collin Sexton simply due to the fact that he's not a ball stopper. I feel like he could be better on good teams, like fitting well with everyone else on the team. And although he's not as efficient, he's still a guy who fits perfectly in the modern NBA because he shoots a lot of threes and he shoots it at a good percentage. And he's also an amazing passer, as I said before. So in the past, we've seen that small backcourts don't really work. And I think there's a chance that could be a reason why they trade him. But to conclude the video, to answer the question of whether or not I think the Cleveland Cavaliers should trade Collin Sexton, I'd say the answer to that is not yes, because in his first 3 years, it's not like he's been disappointing at all. He's literally been playing at an all-star level from even last season. I think there's a chance that trading him could be a huge mistake. I think next season and this offseason, the Cavs should look into getting some players who can actually play basketball at a decent level and some players that could help this team try and win games. If they fell to be one of the worst teams in the league next season, I don't know what this front office is doing. But if they feel like Jalen Green or Jalen Suggs are like the best players available, I believe they should draft him. And if they feel like Collin Sexton is going to get in the way of that, then maybe they should trade him. But nonetheless, I'm not really a Cavaliers fan. I'm more of a Collin Sexton fan since I've been watching him since high school. So maybe him getting traded would be better for his career and he could go play some meaningful basketball. I still have high hopes for him, and I think the Cavs should see it as well. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know if you think the Cleveland Cavaliers should trade Collin Sexton. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content and touch my goal of 1,500 subscribers. Comment on this video, start a conversation with me as I do respond to all of my comments. And I'm out.